The graveyard secret. When Nayaab reached the graveyard, the ground beneath her feet seemed to disappear. What she saw before her eyes was impossible to believe. What had she seen that made her blood run cold? She lived in a small hut near the graveyard, where her father spent his life leveling the soil over graves and listening to the silence of death. Since childhood, Nayaab had watched her father leave for the graveyard at night. At first, she thought it was just another job, like any other. But as time passed, she began to sense that something was not normal. There was always fear on her father's face, a silence that had seeped into the very walls of their home. The villagers whispered about a particular grave in the cemetery, from which strange moans and sighs could be heard every night. Some claimed that in the darkest hours, a mysterious whisper echoed from the grave, chilling the souls of those who heard it. Nayaab had never given much thought to these stories, but a question always lingered in her mind: who was buried in that grave? Was there truly a tormented soul inside, or were these just village tales? Every night, when her father left for work, Nayaab would sit by the window, watching the graveyard. Sometimes, it felt like the wind was trying to say something. The rustling of the trees would merge into whispers. It often seemed as if someone was calling her, but she dismissed it every time, thinking it was just her imagination. But how long can an illusion remain an illusion when everything is happening right before your eyes? That night was no different. The moonlight cast a golden glow over the cemetery. The silence of the night amplified every sound. Nayaab could hear her father's footsteps heading toward the graveyard. She stood by the door, watching until he disappeared into the darkness. She assumed that tonight would be like every other night, but she was wrong. Midnight passed, yet her father had not returned. An eerie fear settled in her heart. The ticking of the clock matched the quickening of her heartbeat. She waited by the window, but with each passing moment, the fear seeped deeper into her veins. Finally, when she could no longer bear it, she draped her dupatta over herself and gathered the courage to step out toward the graveyard. The village alleys were silent. Bats clung to the walls, and stray dogs barked intermittently in the distance. Her heart pounded so loudly that she felt someone might hear it. As she approached the graveyard, her steps slowed. It felt as if something was watching her. A strange scent mixed with the earthy smell of the soil as something burning. Walking between the graves, Nayaab cautiously approached the grave that everyone feared. Suddenly, a scream shattered the silence, a scream so horrifying that it froze her in place. She knew that voice. It was her father's. Tears filled her eyes as she ran toward the grave. But the closer she got, the deeper the darkness became. When she finally reached the spot, she found her father lying unconscious, his hands buried in the dirt, his face twisted in a fear that suggested he had seen death itself. Panicked, Nayaab tried to wake him up, but then as she saw it, a shadow stood by the grave. It was pitch black, darker than the night itself, but its eyes burned like red embers. Nayaab's breath caught in her throat. She was frozen in place. The shadow moved toward her, its whispers growing clearer with each step. This grave is not just for the dead, a broken bar, it is death for the living, too. Nayaab wanted to scream, but her voice refused to escape her lips. It felt as if something had drained the life out of her body. The shadow was so close now that she could feel its cold breath on her face. Then, suddenly, it stopped. There was a strange pain in its whispers, as if it wanted to say something but could not find the words. Nayaab, trembling, stepped back, but the moment she turned to run, the ground beneath her seized her feet. She looked down in horror. The soil from the grave was wrapping around her legs. She struggled, screaming desperately for help, but no one was there to hear her. The shadow laughed, a deep, echoing laugh that sent chills down her spine. "You have seen me. Now, I will never let you go." Tears streamed down Nayaab's face. Her entire life flashed before her eyes: her mother's loss, her father's helplessness, and now, this moment, where she could see the end of her life unfolding before her. And then suddenly the soil loosened its grip. Gasping for breath, she lifted her father onto her shoulder and, with great difficulty, dragged him out of the graveyard. Once inside their home, she bolted the door behind her and collapsed onto the floor, shaking uncontrollably. Her heart pounded wildly, but her mind was still trapped in the shadow's whisper. This grave is not just for the dead, a broken bar, it is death for the living, too. She could not understand who was that shadow and what did it want. Nayaab knew the story was far from over. This was just the beginning. Something was keeping that shadow restless, and until that mystery was unraveled, it would never stop haunting her. Her life had reached a crossroads where every night tested her courage anew. After her father's death, the very air in the house felt heavy, as if something invisible was always watching, always feeling her every movement. On this first night alone, she sensed something unnatural. Doors that had never moved on their own before now creaked open in the stillness of the night. Scratches appeared on the walls, deep, claw-like marks. Sometimes, she heard the soft shuffle of footsteps stopping right next to her. Nayaab would hide under her blanket, drenched in sweat, trying to convince herself that it was all in her head. But how could an illusion be so real that it could be seen and heard? Every night became a new trial. At first, she thought it was just grief playing tricks on her mind. But as days passed, her belief strengthened that this was something else. One night, as she tried to sleep, she suddenly felt a breath against her ear. A cold, emotionless voice whispered with a cruel chuckle, "You have seen me. Now, I will never let you go." Nayaab's heart nearly stopped. She leapt out of bed and switched on the lights, but there was no one there. Her entire body trembled. Tears welled in her eyes as she curled up on the floor, sobbing. What was happening to her? Was this truly a ghost, or was her mind deceiving her? The coming nights were even more terrifying. Now, it wasn't just whispers. She would see a shadowy figure in the mirror, blurry yet unmistakably there. Her breathing would hitch, and she would immediately turn away. Many times, she saw those burning red eyes staring at her through the glass. And when she looked closer, if she turned around, there would be nothing there. Nayaab's sleep had vanished. Deep shadows had formed under her eyes. Outwardly, she was alive, but inside, she was withering away. She had lost her appetite, and every moment, it felt as if someone was following her, breathing down her shoulder. In such circumstances, her only support was her childhood friend, Hassan. He had always been by her side, through every joy and sorrow. Seeing Nayaab's condition, Hassan grew deeply concerned. The lack of sleep in her eyes and the fear on her face were undeniable. He had asked her many times what was wrong, but Nayaab remained silent. She knew that if she told Hassan, he would either think she was crazy or dismiss it as paranoia. Inside Nayaab, a battle raged. On one side was fear, keeping her from speaking, and on the other was helplessness, eating away at her from within. One day, Hassan finally forced her to talk. "Nayaab, I've known you for so many years. You're not so weak that you'd break like this. Something is happening to you. Please, tell me. Maybe I can help." Nayaab's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to speak, to scream, but the words refused to leave her lips. Finally, she whispered, "It's on a broken bar. Some things are hard to explain. You wouldn't understand." Hassan looked into her eyes, and perhaps, he realized she was hiding something. But he did not push her further. However, the silence could not last long. With each passing day, Nayaab's condition worsened. She had begun experiencing strange things even in broad daylight. Laughter echoing from nowhere, shadowy figures crawling along the walls. One day, while fetching water from the kitchen, she discovered deep scratch marks on her arm. Her heart pounded in terror. Now, Nayaab was certain this was no ordinary occurrence. She had to confront whatever was haunting her. One night, when the torment became unbearable, she made a fateful decision. She would return to the graveyard. She knew that whatever was tormenting her was tied to a particular grave. She had to uncover the truth. The night was dark. The moon hid behind the clouds, and the air was thick with an eerie dampness. Carrying a red lantern, Nayaab slowly made her way to the graveyard. Her heart pounded violently with each step, but her desire to uncover the truth was stronger than her fear. As she reached the graveyard's entrance, she felt an unsettling presence, as if someone had been waiting for her. The moment she stepped inside, the same whispers began to echo in her ears, the ones that had haunted her nights. "You have seen me. Now, I will never leave you." Nayaab's entire body trembled, but she steadied herself. Slowly, she moved towards that one particular grave. The shadows around her began to dance. She knew there was no turning back. Whatever secret was buried in that grave, she had to uncover it, even if it cost her life. Her footsteps felt heavy, as if the earth itself was pulling her down. The graveyard silence was so deep that she could hear her own heartbeat. The air smelled of damp soil, and the tree branches cast eerie figures in the dim lantern light. When she reached the grave, it felt as if time had stopped. In the lantern's glow, she noticed signs of recent digging on the soil. She knelt down and found an old wooden plaque buried under the dirt. The thick layer of dust suggested no one had touched it for years. Her hands trembled, but she brushed off the dirt. The writing was faded, but the words she managed to read sent a chill down her spine. Those who see it, die. Those who forget, survive. A wave of terror washed over Nayaab. Her mind raced with countless questions. Did this mean that anyone who tried to uncover the truth about this grave died? Was she now standing at death's door? Panicked, she took a step back, but the moment she tried to turn around, she felt a hand grip her arm. She wanted to scream, but the sound stuck in her throat. She turned around and nothing. Her breath came in short gasps. Stumbling, she rushed toward the graveyard's exit, but shadows loomed in every direction. The trees swayed violently, as if someone had shaken them. She burst out of the graveyard, ran home, and slammed the door shut behind her. She gasped for air, her body shaking uncontrollably. Tears streamed down her face. She couldn't understand what was happening to her. She had to tell someone. Hassan, the only person who would listen. She decided she could no longer stay silent. It could cost her life. The next day, she met Hassan. He listened carefully, his eyes filled with disbelief and concern. But he did not dismiss her words. Nayaab, how long have you been enduring this? You should have told me sooner. Tears welled up in her eyes. I thought you wouldn't believe me. No one would. Hassan placed a hand on her shoulder. I believe you, and I think a broken bar we need to go back. Nayaab hesitated. She couldn't bear to return to that terrifying place. But with Hassan beside her, she felt a flicker of courage. That night, they set off for the graveyard. This time, Hassan carried a flashlight. Nayaab's eyes, however, were filled with fear. As they approached the grave, the air grew heavier. The trees whispered, and a strange odor rose from the ground. Hassan shone his flashlight around the grave. Suddenly, he spotted an old inscription on a stone slab. The words froze them in place. 50 years ago, a cruel landlord was buried alive on this land. His soul still burns with vengeance. Whoever uncovers his secret a broken bar will never leave alive. Tears streamed down Nayaab's face. This is it, a broken bar. This is what's after me. Hassan gripped her hand. We have to find a way to end this. But he didn't realize that he, too, was now marked. As they tried to leave the grave's vicinity, a horrifying scream pierced the air. Nayaab's vision blurred. Hassan shoved her back. Nayaab, run. Get away from here. Tears filled her eyes. I won't leave you. But Hassan pushed her away forcefully. It will kill you too. Nayaab watched helplessly as a dark shadow engulfed Hassan. His screams shattered the silence of the night. Tears streamed down Nayaab's cheeks. When the shadow disappeared, Hassan lay motionless on the ground. It felt as if her heart had been crushed in a fist. Her soul screamed, but no words came out. Hassan's sacrifice shattered Nayaab. Her world had crumbled, but in her eyes, sorrow was replaced with determination. She had lost everything. There was nothing left to fear. She would uncover the full truth. Hassan's death had not broken her up. It had made her stronger. She looked at the grave. One thought echoed in her mind. Now, you won't escape. I will end you. Her heart was heavy with grief, but her resolve was unshaken. Hassan's final moments replayed in her mind. His last scream, his last words, everything. She was hollow inside, but she knew this battle could not remain unfinished. Whether she lived or died, she would uncover the secret of the shadow. Her search led her beyond the city, to the doorstep of an old mystic, a broken bar,